Welcome to Eagle Eye.
McKinsey, he throws the dummy, he scores the try.
Interviewing your favorite USA Eagles around the globe.
One-on-one to score!
Now, here's your host, Bill Baker.
Hello and welcome to the Eagle Eye Rugby Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you can get a moment, you can do it now if you want, or after the show, if you wouldn't mind, subscribe, follow, or like this podcast, and please leave a 5-star review. If you leave a 5-star review, I am stealing this from other podcasters, full disclosure. I will read it on the next episode, no matter what it says. Family friendly, of course. Let's keep that in mind, all right? But like I said, we are back. Stepped away from Eagle Eye for a bit to deal with a few things. No other reason, just been busy. And also our Twitter Spaces show, US Rugby Happy Hour Live, has been doing great. If you haven't listened to it or don't know anything about it, or even participated in Happy Hour Live, you need to join us next time. My co-host, Rugby Mornings, John Fitzpatrick, and I, we have the biggest names in the American rugby scene on in a live setting on Twitter Spaces. You can join in the conversation live, much like a call-in radio show. If you don't know what that is, radio is sound transmitted over the airwaves. Anyway, check it out. It's a lot of fun. The show's a great guest. Now, I've got some really interesting interviews lined up for this rebooted Eagle Eye Rugby podcast season. And not all have played for USA or at that high level or any really high level, maybe just club, high school, whatever. Really a lot of them aren't even in the game anymore. Not a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot of the people that have lined up are still involved, but there's some who, played at some point but can talk about what the game meant for them in their career and family successes. So stay tuned for new episodes every couple weeks. We got some awesome names lined up. Like I said, you're going to dig it. It's going to be really good. All right, let's get on to today's episode. My first guest of this season is recently retired Eagle Nick Civetta. Now, Nick's been on this show and our Twitter Spaces show before, and he's always fun to chat with. Wealth of knowledge, good guy, smart guy, loves USA Rugby, loves sport. But now he gets a chance to look back at his career and share some good stories with us. And also, what's next with him? What's up next? But don't worry, I'm sure we'll see him around a pitch again soon. Not playing, but definitely coaching. All right, glad to tune in. Let's get on to the interview. What's new? No, Nick, we'll get into that whole deal in a second, why you have a lot of free time now. But and I never know how to ask that question or how to approach it. If you're retiring from your career at 65, it's congrats on retirement. But this is a lot different for athletes. So what do you say?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Good luck. Welcome to unemployment is really what it is. I think I was retired for about 3 weeks in December, and then then I went out and found a job. So I started working in February. So the retirement part of retirement didn't last all that long, and now I'm finding that I never really knew the definition of what busy meant. So, yeah. So I have a job now, and still, been doing some coaching and been keeping up with US RPA stuff. So I've been hasn't been a quiet retirement. It's been pretty hectic, honestly, since the beginning of this year. But yeah, honestly, thrilled about the path that I think I'm on, and where it will hopefully take me. So that's how it's been so far.
Yeah. Now, last time we talked, not with the live show, but like this, you were still in your studies. I think you were still getting your master's, I believe it was, in energy systems. Is that all done? It's now you're on the career side of things.
Yeah. So the master's is done. Finished in September, and was able to parlay that into a job with like an energy market analytics company. So it's like energy markets consulting is what I do. It's focused on Great Britain and Europe at the moment. So started that 5 weeks ago, and realizing that I need every single brain cell just to keep up. So
and that's why you're in Europe now, right? So whereabouts in Europe?
Yeah, so I'm still in Oxford, where I've been. This company is actually called Aurora Energy Research. They were founded by Oxford professors, so they're based they have a home base here, but they're around the world now. And it was kind of case that we really enjoy it here at the moment. My wife has a really good job, and I was able to get this job, which was definitely at the top of my list in terms of what I wanted to be doing. So, and we
Right.
didn't have to move, which like for a rugby player, when you've moved basically every 9 months for a decade, it's like pretty nice to just be like, oh no, we're going to stay here. And yeah, so that's the decision we made, and we'll be here. We're not sure the length of time we'll be here, but we enjoy it at the moment.
Now, it's funny you mentioned the brain cells because I think a lot of people would say those who've played the game a long time may have lost a few brain cells over the years. so, so
Yeah.
there's no PTSD anything issues when you're doing your work, right?
No, not at the moment. I think this past year I had a couple of head knocks,
Yeah.
concussions, and it definitely, when you're later on in your years of playing, it does put the fear of God in you, to
Mm.
grapple with head injuries, especially given um, a lot of the research that's constantly being updated about what we are actually doing to our heads. So um,
Yeah.
definitely glad that I will no longer be getting concussions, at least not planned ones, or at least I'll be avoiding them for the most part. Um, so yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, are those? So let's talk about that. The reasons for retiring, for hanging up the boots. Was it injuries piling up? Harder and harder to recover from match to match or training to training, or was it maybe that it was the good window to maybe that make that move?
Um, for I think it was the right window. I mean, I think that became pretty obvious to me. I think in the build up to the World Cup qualifiers, I told
Mhm.
myself and told my wife and my family that if we were unlucky enough to miss out on the World Cup, that I would stop playing rugby. And I told New York that as well. And I think I definitely always meant that sincerely. There was a certain draw to trying to go to another World Cup with guys who I love and love playing with, and with Gary who we loved as a coach, and
Mhm.
that was definitely enough to keep me really motivated and going as strong as I possibly could. But timing wise, finishing the degree, being here, um, it just like I don't know, didn't make sense to me, or enough sense to continue, especially when like in the MLR you're not really getting paid a living wage, so like there are safer and um, definitely more future focused ways to make ends meet.
Yeah, and speaking of MLR, and now with your retirement, do you feel like, putting USA, the Dubai series or the qualifications out of the way, um, do you feel like also that was a good way to go out, MLR champs?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect that to be the story I'd write when I started out in 2013. So if that's my last rugby game, in an MLR shirt. Well, it is my last rugby game in an MLR shirt. So
Mm.
incredibly happy to have gone out as a champion of something. I think over the years with the US, we won various ARCs, and some big test matches. But as a club player, I never really got to participate in grand finals or playoffs even. So it was pretty cool to be involved with that, with some really good friends, um, and yeah, and come out of it with an MLR championship. Even though I only played, I was only on the team for the
Yeah.
last 10 weeks of the season.
Hey, the weeks that matter. Well, they all matter, but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
home
of
stretch
course,
for that,
exactly.
and that damn MLR trophy. It looked like it needed you and a couple of props to lift that thing in the air.
Yeah. Well, there's
It's got
actually
some weight.
there's a rumor that the trophy that we had was a knockoff, and that the Giltini fellow wouldn't actually return the trophy that he had won the
Uh,
year previous. So it's lost somewhere. That Adam
this
Gilchrist has it, and it's not the original Shield.
I bet you there's some truth to that. Yeah, that would make sense to me. So Nick, talk about now. You made the decision. You felt good about it, but let's just discuss that decision making process. You had it in your mind already, like you just said before Dubai or before the qualifications. If we didn't make it, it'd be a good time. But obviously, that's not that easy of a decision. It's not like you're sitting down over a drink one night. Yep, I'm done. So, how difficult really was it to make this decision?
I don't know. I think it's a good question. I don't really know how to answer that. I think it was like
Yeah.
I felt it was time, right? If I didn't have that carrot,
Mhm.
and I felt that way for quite some time. So yeah, I mean, I felt like trying to say something insightful here, but I'm not sure I can. I don't know. It's hard to really know, but I've like when we didn't qualify, I was 100% sure, and I think it's
Hmm.
it's a good time for me personally because of where I'm at in my life, and it's also a good
Yeah.
time I think for the Eagles because they can't be focused on 33-year-old second rows anymore. I think like every ounce of energy we have needs to be like focused on the future, right? And um, well, this it's kind of that double-edged sword of like I don't want to be like I want to be imparting my knowledge onto the next generation of rugby players, but you also want to be a competitor and be playing and be like focused on what you can achieve. So like yeah, it was definitely just time to step back because um you know for every reason.
Yeah. So, again, we won't get into the matches themselves in Dubai, but what kept you out of that series?
Um, Concussions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd had two concussions in the build up, really poorly timed, and um, I I mean, you know, I'm very happy with my decision to not participate because I wasn't in a place to play rugby.
Yeah.
At the level that I knew I was capable of. So I left the team after our week in Cape Town, which was tough because obviously they were going straight to Dubai. Um, Yeah, so it was an emotional week. Obviously, the cloud over it was, well, if we don't make it, then that's kind of the end of my career as an Eagle. Um, so um, yeah, it was tough. I mean, the guys who I was with at the time, they saw it on my face, I think, and um,
Yeah.
I pretty much wear my emotions on the sleeve. So um, yeah, it was a yeah, probably you don't get to write how you retire. Not everyone does, and
Right.
very few people do. So Um, it was yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. Well, and then speaking of the guys, I think a lot of fans, they don't really get, when you play to that level, you play for your country, the amount of pride to do so, to pull on those jerseys. And I know, I'm certain you talked to a lot of your teammates after that Portugal match, or soon after. But if any of these guys actually watch the interviews or the reactions after that match, you can just see how devastating it was, how much it meant to them. Can you talk to that fact? I mean, I'm assuming you talked to the players after. Just explain how difficult it was not to qualify. I guess some fans, they think, well, they didn't try hard enough, or they didn't work hard enough, whatever, which is complete BS, obviously.
Um,
But talk about that.
I mean, it's incredibly tough. It
Yeah.
like we put so much into this the last couple of years. Despite the myriad challenges of COVID and not being able to be together, and the sort of traditional lack of funds, lack of time together before test matches, stuff that's affected us, forever. When we were successful and when we have not been successful, that's those challenges are largely the same, right? So, I think you kind of you look at the path we were on between Uruguay and then Chile losing by a point because of a penalty, and
Mhm.
then Portugal sort of the same exact thing on points difference. Like it's just the margins are so fine. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like so heartbreaking for everyone involved, for the coaches, for us as players, for the USA Rugby community. Like it's not fun to sit here and talk about. It's not they're not fun memories to have, from a results point of view.
Yeah.
And yeah, I cannot fault anyone's effort or or will to succeed. Honestly, from the staff down to the players. It was definitely. It started out probably as an exercise in eating some humble pie, and then turned into like a full-on just war over the summer to get into the best shape possible, to prepare, to get together, to go to South Africa, to blood new guys, to get guys ready for test level, and then to perform. So it was incredibly difficult. And I think the conversations I've had with guys afterwards, we're all sort of on the same page about that. But I think if you want to end this little fucking diatribe on a happy note, it's a huge wake up call for us as a nation that we need to start thinking in longer term timescales to get things right. We have a once in a lifetime opportunity as a country to get rugby right between now and 2031, 2033, and it's going to start with USA Rugby, right? Getting it right, getting the grassroots right, getting the development right, getting their programs right, and their spending right, and the data collection and understanding, who's growing where, what the programs are like, who's running them. It's a really challenging problem because it's so dispersed, and it's something that I think will begin to be addressed properly, starting now, because I think everyone at that organization is under the same mindset that this is the time now to be making sure that we're getting it, absolutely right. So I have a lot of faith in our ability to do that over the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and turn ourselves into a program that's enviable.
All right, let's talk about the future now. What we saw last year, you just talked about this, playing in South Africa before going into that series. That time together was very unique. That's the time that I think everyone's wanted before going into big tournaments or big series. But so hopefully we keep doing that. But let's look at the coaching staff now. Obviously, you played on the Gary for a while. I believe you're familiar with Scott Lawrence. Can you talk to him about what he has to offer to the program?
I've had a couple conversations with Scott in the context of the Players Association and my retirement as well. I have a lot of faith that he is absolutely the man for the job at the moment. I think he is an incredibly process-driven coach, incredibly detailed, and really grounded in the day-to-day of what we need as a rugby country to grow beyond just the 2 weeks before a test match. So that's why I think I'm really excited about this next phase with him at the helm, because he's also he's director of high performance as well at the moment, so he's wearing a lot of hats. Amazingly, the guy can wear so many hats. He's I don't think he sleeps, but I think I would expect him to really take a hard look and a hard and detailed look at what it means to be an Eagle, what it should mean to be an Eagle, and where we want the program to go, and then to just go out and execute that, right? And I would expect as well that the resources to do so will be forthcoming for one reason or another. Yeah.
And it's good to see the Pathways programs already picking up with the USA Hawks with Brandon Keane coaching.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's come out of 2-3 months of extremely hard and diligent work to identify players, to work with the MLR to get them on board. It's a really, it's another thing that didn't exist that is largely good, that will make better rugby players in the U.S.
Yeah, no doubt. And looking at the players, the better rugby players in the U.S., look at the future of the team. Let's talk about some players who have been impressing you. I've noticed, Fernando Schultz played really well in Dubai. Corey Daniels stepping up. These are just the forwards, obviously. Iscaro and Andrew Guerra. I mean, can you talk about maybe at least with the forwards who's been impressing you with the young guys?
Sure. Now that I'm retired, I guess I can weigh in on these things. I'm just a pundit now. I'm just an old man with an opinion. Yeah, I think. Listen, you've nailed the names of the guys who I mentioned. I was very impressed with Jack and his scrummaging.
Hmm.
Corey has the sort of air of a John Quill about him, very combative, extremely strong, and like still, he's still learning the game as well. But he definitely has all the physical and mental attributes to be really really successful. Um, I did see a lot of God. I hate saying this now because I'm so freshly removed from it, but I feel like a pundit now. Um, and yeah, I did see a lot of promise in the young guys, and it is really heartening, to see
Yeah.
guys like that step up. Ryan Reese, trained really well, played really well when he had the opportunities. There's definitely some guys who I'm missing out on, but
Yeah.
those crops of guys, like those guys who born and bred Americans who like Jack and Corey and Villy,
Hmm.
who and Andrew as well when he returns. Has he returned from injury yet?
Not yet.
Almost.
No.
Um,
Almost.
those guys are the have the right attitude, I think, to be really really great for the U.S. and for their clubs. And I'm no doubt will wear the jersey for a long time.
And I know forwards don't like backs and vice versa. But
Oh yeah,
you
did I
mentioned
not mention any backs? Yeah,
no. I'll mention it though. I'll bring it up.
sure.
Some that impressed me also, Mitch Wilson, Michael
Yeah,
Baska.
yeah,
Good to see him back in the MLR mix.
that's true.
And Dabulous. I mean, and obviously that's just three players, but I mean, there's got to be some players in the back line that impress you as well.
Yeah, I mean those guys have been great. Um,
Yeah.
I think. Listen, you're not going to get me to say anything bad about these young guys. I think
Come
I
on,
think
one guy.
no, I have been very impressed with Mitch. Mitch seems, like personality wise, mature beyond his years, and like definitely has that combativeness that you want to see in like an international winger. Just someone who's gonna just go balls out every kick chase and whack people. Um, so yeah, I think they've been good, and I hope that some of the older guys like myself were able to, I guess not in the way we perform necessarily on the field with the results, but at least in terms of the attitude, getting the attitude of what it takes to be an Eagle close to right, um, would be,
Yeah.
I guess, something that I would hopefully hang my hat on as having done. But um, yeah, I do think the future is bright, and was largely impressed by the youths, and. Uh, no doubt there will be a few more that come out of the woodwork this MLR season and impress us all.
Yeah. All right. A couple more questions for you, Nick. Let's go back now. Let's look at your career a little bit. This is one of those. This is your life moments. Obviously, we talked about this before. There was some big parts of your career. World Cups, MLR champion. We just mentioned the varsity match with Oxford. Defeated Scotland, not by yourself, with a bunch of other people. You can go back to like the mud and lights out in Chile. Let's talk a little bit about some highs and lows in your career. When I say let's talk about it, I mean I want to hear you talk a little bit about some highs and lows. What were some of the great moments, and honestly, what were some of the low moments?
Well, we've discussed the low moments
Yeah, true,
so far.
true.
Um, yeah, I guess if I'll probably always go back to there's really two moments. Well, that's not true. There are many moments that I would say were the highs. Beating Scotland was no doubt one of them because it represented an actual achievement. It was a win against number 6 or 7 ranked country in the world at the time,
Hmm.
on home soil in front of a fairly raucous crowd. Um, and it was by the skin of our teeth. It was 30-31-29, right, or something like 30-29, and missed a kick
Something like
to
that.
to seal it for us. So like just a crazy sort of last 10 minutes of that game. And God, I mean, we were staying. I remember in classic fashion, we were staying like 40 miles outside of what city were we in? Houston, and like just some
Houston,
random
yeah,
hotel that worked for us. So like by the time we got home, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was like nowhere to go and celebrate. This is
right.
like from the game. We got home at 1, and then we all just locked
Wow.
ourselves in the common room at this Holiday Inn, and we're there till 5 or 6 in the morning. Someone's dad went out and bought like a supermarket cart filled with beers and drinks, and we just sat around just having the greatest time talking absolute shit to each other, and it was really that's a special memory. So I hang my hat on nights like that. We had a similar one at the end of that year. We had that fairly successful year of tests where we had won 13 in a row or something, or 12 in a row, and then lost to Ireland in Aviva. Played well, and that's a game that always bugged me because we were close to about 60 minutes, and we really felt like we were affecting the game in a positive way, and we could do things. We could attack, we could score. Maul was going well. Joey scored a great try off a line-out move down the blind side. That was just a beauty of a move. And we got a Maul try as well in the first half, and then we just kind of took our foot off the gas a little bit in the last 20 minutes, and they ran away with it. But the night and day after that were really memorable. My wife was with me; she was my girlfriend at the time, and she ended up tagging along on the 2-day sort of post game because it was the end of the test season. We just had so much fun with the guys on Sunday in Dublin, and flew back to Doncaster the Sunday night at like 9 or 10 p.m. and had to train the Monday morning in just a horrible state. So, I mean, moments like that, I think that season were great. And then the build up to the Rugby World Cup was also really special. The amount of time we spent together, I think we worked really hard to be as good as we possibly could be for that tournament. And those months were really memorable. The preparation games, just dislocating my ankle and then recovering from that, and then playing in the World Cup.
Well, hold on, Nick. So you mentioned the ankle thing. Really quick about that. You came back obviously to play in the World Cup. Was that one of the things where maybe you shouldn't have played, but you're like, fuck that, this is the World Cup, I'm playing?
I think there was about two days of unknown where it was like, I think I'm done here. Like I've probably broken something, and obviously couldn't walk or anything. But I got some MRI. I got the MRI results, and it was like, so when you dislocate your ankle, they say there's a 1 in 2,000 chance you don't break any bones alongside of it. And I hadn't broken any bones. Insanely lucky. And they said this is a 12 to 16 week injury. And I had 8 weeks, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to do it. So, I think, once I kind of got the there's nothing broken, there's no surgery needed, just rehab the shit out of it and see where you are in 8 weeks. It was all systems go. And USA Rugby, they took care of me really well. They put me up in a hotel right next to me and Mike Teo, right next to Mike Keating's place in Superior. And we were just like there all day, 5-6 hours a day, rehab, fitness, one-legged rowing, then into the pool 7 days a week for 5 or 6 weeks while the guys were away in Chile. And then where did they go? Oh, sorry, they went to South Pacific, Fiji, and we just stayed. Like, we didn't have any time off during that period. Just like stayed and rehabbed, and then I think it was like a couple days before we were meant to go to Japan, I was running again, and I was like, I think I probably wouldn't have recovered as fast had Gary not said to me, like, we need you to come, like, you're coming, sort out your ankle. So I had the motivation knowing that if I got right, I'd be on the plane. And it took it was only maybe 3-4 days before the flight left that I was back in training running around. So I was very fortunate that all, I mean, came off well. I mean, Kristen and Kevin and Mike were all just absolute legends, and the amount of tape I used, that's probably why we went bankrupt after the World Cup, was just
it's your fault. All right, you all heard that. It's Nick's fault. We have no money.
Yeah.
All right, listen, 2 more things for you, and this one might be a thinker, okay? We've talked about your career, where you are now, and we obviously talked about rugby. Let's tie the two together. As you look back, have you ever thought about this, or can you tell me, is there stuff about the game, even from your very first time stepping on the pitch to now, that has bled over to your career? In other words, is there something about that game that you think really helped where you are now?
My 5-week-old career as a professional man.
Well, and also the schooling and the drive to get to where you are now.
Yeah, I think so. I think like I found rugby, really, really stressful, a lot of the time because, you are kind of at the whim of other people, and you're being judged constantly about like your toughness and behavior and your fitness, like things that are like core to your being. And it can be really difficult to deal with, and yeah, I think that kind of, with that comes the ability to set set your goals really clearly at different levels, right? So like today goals, this week goals, like career goals, and everything in between. And if you kind of stay within the bounds of, what you think you can accomplish, what you think you can control at the moment, I think that to me is a very powerful tool that I took from rugby that I think is going to serve me well in my career. So yeah, I think that's one thing.
Nice.
If that makes sense.
It does. And lastly, Nick, this isn't the last time we're going to see each other. We're going to see you out there on a pitch somewhere, and maybe not with your boots on, but maybe around rugby.
On a pitch, yeah, I know. I do plan on being really involved. I really enjoyed the coaching experience I've had with Oxford this year. I was on the Twickenham sidelines over the weekend, almost having a heart attack. Pretty close to having a heart attack and a close loss to Cambridge. Which I'm sure made Nate Brakely really, really happy. But no, I will be involved. I'll be involved. I loved the coaching last few months, so I'm gonna, stay doing that on a volunteer basis as I can with work and try to push that where I can. And then we'll continue to be involved with the Players Association. We've a lot of stuff happening with that. For me, it's mostly post work to when I go to sleep, thinking about that stuff because that relationship with the MLR is constantly in flux. So yeah, I'll be involved, and then I don't think I could stay away. I do love the game, and it's just different, right? It's very different to be involved as a coach or as an administrator, and it'll be a part of my life no matter what.
We need to do something about your apartment there, though. There's no framed jerseys on the wall. I don't see a rugby ball on the shelves. Obviously, your wife decorated.
This room is mostly her. It's so poorly decorated. I'm glad I'm covering up all the wires hanging off from the TV. We have. Let's not say my wife's a bad decorator. I'd say this is a rental place, and we're I haven't gotten around to doing any of that jersey framing stuff yet, but I will. It's nice. It's on the list.
Well, hey, Nick, thanks a ton, man. I really appreciate this talk, and good luck with the career and sidelines coaching.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Happy to chat, and you can now add me to your list of old men with opinions about rugby. So, always willing to lend my 2 cents, however useful it may be.
Absolutely. We'll get you on as just on the corner of one of our interviews one day, and you'll chime in once in a while. That's BS or whatever. Just
come in with stronger and stronger opinions as I get older.
As we all will, yes.